I mean, I was 35 when I got the second cancer. Never in a million years, if you asked me. I was like, I'm young, I'm fit, I loved what I did. I wasn't burnt out. What you're describing is really, it's a grounding process in itself, but you're getting in touch with you. For many years, when people said to breathe, I was a very shallow breather.
Annette has worked with leaders, professionals, and high achievers who have built their identity around being dependable, resilient, and strong, and often at the expense of their own health and well being. So that's a key component that we're going to dig into. Now, Annette's mission is to really help people recognize when strength becomes a survival strategy and to discover a healthier, more authentic path. So, Annette, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Chuck. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dig into some of that stuff because I've really never heard about being too strong. And then when I read a little bit more about this, about what you have to say, I was like, wow, yes. So let me ask you real quick. Your book challenges something most of us, I think, have been taught since the very, very beginning, that being strong is a good thing. So, for you personally, what was the moment in your life when you really realized and recognized that strength itself could become unhealthy?
That's such a great question. I would say probably around the fifth or sixth cancer. I mean, I'm pretty, thick-headed, so having it once and twice and okay, because you do, of course, shift each anything that happens to us. It changes us, right? But I just kept living my life the same. And then that mirror kept coming back, which each diagnosis, and I just couldn't look away anymore. And I had to kind of look internally and say, what am I doing that's not that it's wrong, but what am I doing that's not maybe in balance to my body? And that's when I started saying, okay, I changed over the course. I changed my health. I went back to become a health and wellness, coach. I did everything on the outside, right? I went to therapy. I did all the things that you're supposed to do when you're looking at kind of shifting, getting sick or getting ill so many times. And then at the last one, I said, no, this is an inside job. Something is not congruent. And listen, I think it's wonderful. We have such beautiful skills to be able to help people. And that's what I did for a living. I love doing it. And I noticed that didn't know how to set that boundary where I was just giving and giving and giving and not really receiving. And that's where I had to, that was that shift. I think it was around the fifth or sixth cancer. It was kind of like enough. I got to, just like how I'm living in my life it's not sustainable.
You know, that's the other thing too about the self and self care, and going along with we've all been taught, giving is being strong, is healthy, and it's good, but you tend to forget about yourself. It sounds like, and I think we all end up doing that when we're caregivers or
Yes.
whatever it might be.
Yeah. Because this isn't just a pattern that happens with, it happens especially with people who are in the helping field. So you're looking at, the therapists, the doctors, the nurses, the parents. This is a pattern that we're kind of taught as probably when we're younger by well-meaning teachers and parents and religious, um, people that are be of service. It's selfish to think of yourself first, right? It's like these are ingrained in us, and so yes, we're working and we're doing well, and we're like, okay, so I'm getting paid for what I do. I feel valued. I'm happy about this, and then all of a sudden you realize, well, there's this apathy that comes about, or it's like we slightly start disconnecting ourselves from ourselves. Like there's a disconnection. We're not even paying attention to our body. We just keep pushing. And that's what I find most what people do. They just keep pushing. I have so many people say to me, I can't stop. It's like, well, and I understand it, especially as an entrepreneur. I understand that where it's like, they love what they do, but there's not that ability to look and say, I'm not too strong, right? What I'm doing, I love. So therefore, I'm just going to keep going.
Mhm.
And it does come at a cost. A lot of the times men say to me, it came at a cost to their relationship. Um, and then women, you hear health, where there's autoimmune, like something happens where it has to stop them, So it's like you're trying to, at this point, kind of really helping people to, yes, become aware, but sometimes we don't even want to look and become aware. So it's actually giving yourself permission. Can I give myself permission to be able to think of myself as first? That's a question for a lot of people.
Yeah, and like you were kind of alluding to the fact that there's nothing wrong with you being first. Because if you can't take, or if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be able to take care of others. And I don't want to pick sides of men and women, but I'm going to pick a side and say that I think women nowadays have it much more a difficult time because they're, again, not to be chauvinistic, but naturally a caregiver. So you're already caring for other people and you're already in that mindset of taking care of your spouse, your children, the house, but also now they are battling that corporate field. So it's like you've got twice as much. Can we call it a heavy burden?
Yeah. I think the difference too, I mean, men grew up with that, you have to be strong, right?
Yeah.
So in all fairness, that's not an the easy thing to have to contend with, because in doing that, a lot of men then, can't show you feelings. So it's like submerging. And then later on, there's heart problems, anxiety, and all the other stuff that happens as a result. It's like an imploding, right? But with women, it's a little bit different because women, yes, everything you said, truth. On top of that, or an end to that, is they naturally hold that container for everyone's feelings around them. And so people they work with, they're fielding, their hardships or things that happen at work in their family. They have their own family. They have mom and dad. They have the kids, and they're holding this container for everybody. And sometimes I created this like two strong patterns because things that I've noticed not only myself but also with clients. This one I call the cart puller. It's somebody who is like the donkey pulling the cart and like all aboard. Come on, like I'll handle everything, right? And then after a while, you're trying to, just go about your day and you can't unknow what people say to you. You can't unknow the problems. And it's like it's there. And so you're pulling, and plus you're also dealing with your own stuff, right? So it becomes this, if we're not careful, that's how we start getting depleted. So, and sometimes we are depleted and we don't admit that we're depleted. Like I never would have said that I was burnt out. I mean, I was 35 when I got the second cancer. Never in a million years, if you asked me. I was like, I'm young, I'm fit. I loved what I did. I wasn't burnt out, but I was on an emotional level, but I just didn't know because I was so disconnected to my body. My body was giving me indications and I wasn't paying attention.
You
So,
mentioned emotionally, uh, you're burnt out. Was there any uh, was there any behavioral changes that you recognize now, as far as maybe being your fuse is a lot shorter, things like that, not not caring as much, even though you're still strong and you're taking on things, but you're not caring.
yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah. It's this is where that piece that giving yourself permission. And
Hmm.
like the other day I was talking to one of my clients, and um I asked her to do, I said, "Are you willing to do, because it's always an invitation, right? Are you willing to do, it's 5 minutes, Chuck. A 5 minute, it's not even a meditation, it's called Two Strong Reset. Um and just to be able to get grounded in your body, to just 5 minutes. It's like I just keep saying that because wait for the response, right? And she says, yes. And then she goes on a whole litany of all the things that she has to do. So she's already justifying not doing it. But it's 5 minutes at one time a day. So it's so interesting how we want to, where we know logically that we should, but something stops us. There's something within us that doesn't allow that process of putting yourself first. And that's what I love to work with people is finding that root cause, because usually it goes back to childhood. It's something that, yes, it's learned, but these are when it goes to that extreme like that, it's usually I call them adaptations for some type of traumatic event or some heartbreak or something that happens when we're younger that we just don't have the tools in order to deal with them. So we then become this over caretaker, right? Everybody else, because it keeps us safe. We just have our, right? Our fingers on everything, or we become like a first responder. We're always looking to see how is everything. We're always on. The issue with that is there's no downside for or downgrading for our nervous system. So it's like there's no breath that we can take. So yes. So to answer your question, yeah,
uh, I I'm just thinking about this where there is good resistance or good healthy, what do we call it? Not resilience, but there are healthy being too strong,
right,
if that makes sense. But
right,
then how do we tell, other than, like you said, there's emotional signals, there's physical signals probably as well.
yes,
So from you, how can you tell, or how can someone tell that, you know, this is the wrong kind of strength that I'm giving? I am a business owner, I am a caretaker, caregiver, I am a leader, but people go beyond and then it affects them, but we just don't know where that line is. How can people tell?
yeah. Such a good question, because it's there's so many things that went through my head. We actually know. I mean, we're so intuitive, and don't give ourselves credit for it. Sorry. So if our bodies know, and if we start, that's why that 5 minute, just putting your hand on your heart and one on your stomach and just taking deep breaths in. If you do that just one time a day and just see where you feel a twinge, or sometimes you realize, oh my goodness, I have this little headache. Oh, I didn't drink water. I had, how many cups of coffee. And it's just starting to make that connection with your body, because your body's telling you, whether it's coming out in anxiety, whether it's coming out in a pain in your neck and your back and your shoulder. Our body's constantly talking to each other. So I became, because I had no choice, become very good at listening to my body.
Hmm.
Had that not happened to me, I would have been continuing to push through, which isn't good, because eventually the body just can't sustain that level of pushing. It just doesn't. It implodes in some way.
Yeah.
And that's why it's just taking that time to allow yourself. We'll go outside, take 5 minutes, sit in the sun, go for a little walk. I have to force myself sometimes because I love what I do. So I'm like writing and I'm like getting into it. And then I have a little buzzer goes off and I'm like, no, I'll just wait for it. So even for myself, it's this constant habit that I have to keep conditioning in order for me to stop myself from doing too much and taking phone calls that I know I could do after work, right? Because people need me. I'm needed. So it's so enticing on that, to feel that, it's to be there for everyone else. But it's the only way that you can really show up fully. And that's why I use the survival. I call it survival strong, because you adapted to how to be this strong for everyone else. And then to kind of slowly go into the soul strong, which is really start looking at a calmer, more clear vision of who you are, what you want, what's the connection to yourself. It's a process to be able to do that.
Yeah. Uh, Everything that you're talking about is an obvious, but also a weird thing. And I say a weird thing is because you said, yeah, we know we're supposed to do this, but it's almost like we give priority over to something else that's not as important because we feel that we're supposed to. And then it becomes this habit that we do. And then you say, 5 minutes a day. Oh, I want to, but like, as you mentioned, they're already making an excuse or a reason saying why they're not going to, even though they want to. Oh, I have this, and this. It's almost like FOMO, fear of missing out. But you're not going to miss out on those things. You just need to take care of yourself.
And you feel and that you're so much more filled up. So you're able to make better decisions, and so it's like it is this kind of strange thing, but usually if I when I work with people, there's always something underneath it. And it usually comes down to a piece of feel unworthiness.
Hmm.
And it's not a logical thing. But underneath everything, if you keep going down and start looking at how do what's underneath it? What's the root cause? It's usually some piece of, I need to do more for value. I need to take care of everyone else because I need to feel loved. Like there's usually that underneath everything. But sometimes it's hard to see that connection. Like personally, I never would have thought that myself, so unless until I started working on what the root causes were and I saw the connection. And personally, it's usually, well, not for everyone, but for me, it was traumatic events when I was a kid, which kind of created this, two strong patterns, right? But that's what I find though. There's usually something or multiple things when I'm working with somebody that you start, death in the family or things that happen when you're younger that you just don't know how to deal with. So these adaptations, um, there's such a beautiful that's why I say this. It's so enticing because it's so beautiful to be able to be, and give and be of service, and yet keeping yourself out of the equation can come at a cost.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been ingrained in us from the beginning that you want to be a good person. So I'm trying to be a good person. Well, take care of yourself too. Um, Now, you've worked with professionals and executives, very successful people. Uh, so I wanted to find out from you if you've noticed a common pattern among these high achievers that you know that lead to burnout or quietly lead to burnout and chronic stress, or maybe we even said it can affect you physically. So the question of mine again is: have you noticed a common pattern among these high achievers that leads to that, to the burnout and stress and everything?
I think there's this this is what I hear over and over again. I can't stop. I love what I do. I'm not going to stop, but it's not even asking to stop. It's just adding yourself in the equation. It's like, so it's not like a depletion piece, but a lot of entrepreneurs and high achievers are usually what I call the island, where they're the responsible one. They're the ones that are going to take care of everything, right? They're this kind of, and it's not always the case. I always find there's pieces of these patterns in each of us, but they just learn to be independent and stand on their own. And that's what makes them successful, to be able to do that. And the issue with that is that ability to not be and ask for help when they need it. And
Mm,
so there's this kind of tendency to be like, I'm here, okay, but it's in doing that, there's this kind of sense that pushing everybody else away. And we don't realize that we're doing it. We're, of course, we have people reporting to us, but still, it's always us that we're like, this is it. We're independent. We're going to, no, I don't need to let anybody in. And that can get that kind of balance I was talking about before, where if you're giving so much, there needs to be a balance of, taking to for you to accept that kind of help. And that could feel really strange. Anytime you try to do and make any of these changes, it can feel odd. Even for myself, I recently with because I recently came across this medical group that wants to collaborate. And a lot of my trauma came from medical field, right? So we'll have to put that into the loop, right? So we have to add that piece in, because here I am now, um, asking for, like, okay, I had cancer when I was 3 years old, right? So you have that post traumatic stress from that. And also, one of the cancer doctors, unfortunately, uh, I had experience of being sexually abused by one of the cancer doctors. So that piece, I created this kind of like moat around me, especially when it comes to doctors and, medical community, that I'm on my own, so this is an interesting piece now. Here I am, how many years later, and they want to collaborate, especially on the survival aspect of, being a survivor. And I'm like, there's a piece of me that's very uncomfortable with that. And I love people and I love to, but like, of course, help people, but that collaboration is a different skill set, because then it's asking me, because I'll always throw myself under the bus. I don't care. Like, if it helps anybody, like, I'm always looking at um, how to really transform fears for myself. And I don't mind using that as an example. So I'm working that through. That I'm so comfortable being in an island that, to be able now to come full circle for doctors that, yes, they help me live, but they also hurt me. And so now I'm going to be bringing them into the circle of collaborating as a peer. And so that's strange to me.
Is
It's
that sorry to jump in. Is that part of the transitioning from like a survival strong to your soul strong?
exactly.
Okay.
So even that piece of conditioning myself that I am still safe, and that's really what it comes down to for many of us. It's, are we safe in this new environment, even though it's good for us? It's like, it sounds so silly, right? But that's the truth. Our bodies got so used to protection, it's survival. Like, kind of, making sure, especially putting everything, like, people say, oh, you have control issues, right? Or is it that you need to be able to keep everything at bay because when you were younger, or it wasn't safe, there was something had to be in your life that you did not feel safe, so you develop these adaptations. Okay, it's not a bad thing, right? It's just now looking at it going, all right, now this isn't helping me. How do I then go into more of a soul? Like, soul strong is, what does my soul really want? What's my passion? What's my mission? And am I matching it on a daily basis?
Um, is there a first practical step that someone can take like this week if they also watching, listening to you recognize what is happening? Is there a practical step that they could take?
Yeah. You know, um, I would ask yourself, if I didn't have to be for everybody else or do for everyone else one day, if I didn't have to do anything for anyone else, what would I do? That really tells you a lot about where your soul strong lies. What's important to you, what makes your heart sing. Because your body will always tell you the answer. So, and take that really, when I say the 5-minute piece, it's not even 5 minutes. If you just stop during the day, walk outside, or go into the bathroom, you're still in an office, or just put your one hand on your stomach, one hand on your heart, and really, take 3 deep breaths, and kind of scan your body. I always kind of use like a light to kind of go through my body, and just to go through every piece and down to my feet. And you will feel like, okay, so, oh, there's like something that's like out in a way. And just ask your body, like, what is it? Why is that there? Usually there's some type of emotional component to it. And then from that piece, then, okay, so what do we need to do about it? So it's just kind of 5 minutes of grounding to be able to do that.
The other thing that's really interesting that you're talking about, and it makes me think about this, but like I said, hand on the heart and breathe in. It doesn't take long. But the other interesting thing about this is we, this may sound crazy, we rarely breathe in deep. We don't. Well, we're doing shallow breathing, but then if you really do that, there is a difference. If you take just that moment to breathe in deep, you feel a physical change, and it's to me, you feel a calm as well.
Yeah, for many years, when people said to breathe, I was a very shallow breather, and still I have to remind myself, no, 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 we have to stop. And so I train myself if I'm driving at the lights. That's what I do: take deep breaths, and I put my hand on my belly so I could feel my belly expand. Because if I didn't, I would be shallow breathing. But the when people say meditate, meditation for me, honestly, was threatening because I just felt like I could not take that time. Like, what was going to happen to me if I was in that state of just calm? And it sounds weird, but that's a traumatic response. And so, what I would do instead was take meditative walks. For me, that worked. I'd commune with nature. I'd go on a path. I would breathe in the trees, by the water. That calms me. Um, it's whatever works for you is the right way. It doesn't have to be because they say you need to meditate, or you need to do yoga, or whatever they say. you know, you have to ask your body what your body wants. For me, yoga didn't work, but Tai Chi did. And Qigong works for me wonderfully because it's just that the movement of the energy just worked at a slower pace for my body. Too many operations, I think, is probably the reason, but still, it's finding what works for you.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong on this or off, but I think if say that an elderly person is watching and listening to us to talk, and they're saying, I don't have the energy to do that, or physically I can't. You mentioned the word grounding. It's as simple as very low stress to the body. You could sit someplace outside, preferably, um, both feet firmly planted on the ground, and maybe take your shoes off. Just feel the ground and be grounded. Can that can that all um, help the soul and help
I
people?
love I love that. I think grounding with taking your shoes off in grass or in sand or is a beautiful thing to do. Some people lie down. I'm in a high tick area right now, so it's something that we have to be careful. And then when I lived in Florida, we had those little fire ants, so you couldn't do that so it became like you only had the sand. Um, but it's so beautiful to be able to do that because it's it just helps the body just relax. And it's just like this nature is so important for us. That's why into nature, just in and of itself, the breath of the oxygen when we're breathing in the trees, the water is so healing. I'll stand by the water and just visualize the water going throughout my body because our bodies are energy. So it's like if I'm picturing the water go through just like blood, it's moving everything and it removes kind of the block. Sometimes you kind of feel like a twinge, when you do that. Um, it's anything to have that connection with nature is so amazingly vital and important.
I think a lot of people live in the city and things like that now, or they're not in that perfect situation where they'll say, "Oh, I'm not in a rural area. I don't have the trees and forests." Don't worry about that. For for me, I'm not a professional, but I would say the key to it for me is really seriously putting both feet on the ground and pausing for a moment to listen and recognize what's around you. Um, and again, correct me if I'm wrong on this. And I know because I've done this at hotels. I've sat there on the chair. I'm in New York, feet planted on the ground, just to listen. My eyes are closed. I hear sirens and things, but it's still kind of grounding me because I'm listening to everything. I'm personally not in the rush. I'm just soaking it all in. Is that dumb? Is that crazy?
No, I think it's beautiful. I think it's beautiful to be able to give that as an example for people because um, all those sounds, I went to the city just recently and uh, because I haven't been there. I mean, post COVID, I haven't been there in a lot of years because I just moved back. So it's like I'm like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Just say all those sounds that you hear. Like just it's amazing. But still be able to feel that calm like that inside, and then to be able to go about your day. I think that's beautiful. And there's still like, I mean, there is. Even if you have a plant inside a room,
Mhm.
right? It's still alive and there's still energy, to it. There's water surrounding, well, Manhattan Island, right? And then, of course, they have the park, but you'd have to go to the park in order to do that. Other than that, it's concrete and buildings. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, but there are ways to do it. There are grounding mats and things like that that you can purchase. But even if you visualize it in your body, like you did, that's the most important piece. If you have that intention, your
The
body
whole
responds to it.
You'll hear, I mean, the traffic and everything is the noise, but that's what we hear when we're not really paying attention. And I don't want to say when you're grounding that you're paying attention, but I feel that the noise, the sounds come to me differently. I'm recognizing, I'm feeling these things. It's not um a nuisance. I don't know what word to say, but it doesn't bother me because I all of a sudden I'll hear something else, whether it be a voice or, maybe you'll hear a bird or maybe you'll hear a dog. But if you're just going about yourself walking down and you're just kind of stressed because you're trying to get to work because you need to help people, all that sound is noise. But when you stop and I'll sound really corny, it becomes beautiful.
Right, right. Oh, it's what you're describing is really, it's a grounding process in itself, but you're getting in touch with you.
Mhm.
The piece of you, the soul piece of you. It's like that's that piece that's within us, and so to be able to access that gives us so much more power. And that's what we have to keep in mind, that it's, yes, it may be a nuisance to stop and to do that, like you think, oh, I don't have the time for that, but it gives us so much more when we do.
Yeah,
It
it
gives
really
us a
does.
clarity, right? The calmness, we make better decisions based on that level of who we are, right? So yeah, that's wonderful. I love that.
I feel like doing it today, now. And,
Exactly.
uh, Annette, I wanna make sure that people know where to go to get more information about you, to find out information about you, your book, purchase your book and all that. Where can they go? Because I believe you have 2 websites, one about you or more leaning towards you, and then one specifically with your book.
Yeah, so my website is anettimatteo.com. And I'm redoing the website right now. So by the time this comes out, the book is going to be on it. But the book itself, any place that you purchase books, you can get it. Amazon, Nook, any of the ones at Barnes and Noble,
Okay.
etc. Yeah.
This is really good information, and for those of you listening or watching, we are on a Monday, and I think I'm gonna speak for both of us, Annette. We need this today,
Yes.
Monday.
Yes. I need it. I need it. It's so true. I'm so
Yeah.
happy you said that because I'm going to do that when we get off the phone. It's like on the phone where we're on the call, is like just go and ground myself because, yeah, it's been quite the morning already. So, yeah.
Yeah, and during our conversation, I've actually can't see under my desk. I've taken off my socks. I didn't have my shoes on. I pulled my socks up, and it's already made a difference of me putting my feet flat on the ground.
It's
Um,
amazing.
I know that a lot of people go, "Oh, it's comfortable if I cross my legs." There's a huge difference if you s both feet firmly planted on the ground and no slouching, but sitting up straight, which I'll do now,
Right?
makes a difference.
Yes. Yeah,
So,
that's the truth.
Is there anything else that you want to add for the audience as far as your book or what they can do or anything like that?
Yeah, the one thing that's I think we kind of take for granted is our bodies. And so just taking that moment and asking your body what it needs and just begin to have that communication with yourself because your body is all one. Personality, the emotional body, the physical body, and your spiritual body. It's all one. And so there's a tendency of saying, my mindset is different than my body. And no, it's all, I always say it's like spiritual body, the, body set, mindset, spirit set. It's like, it's all one. So it's important to just, start asking your body, all right, how am I feeling today? It sounds funny, but it's just that to start that connection because you will, once you start doing that, you will get answers. That things will come up, things will come to you, situations will be presented, and you're like, where did that come from? Right? It's just the intention of to be able to say, you know what, I want a better relationship with my body because this is your container for being here on this earth for this short period of time that we have. I wish I would have paid attention sooner. I didn't, but I'm so happy to be here to be able to still do the work that I'm doing. It took me out for many years, and I don't want that for anybody else because right after the cancers, I went into chronic pain. So it was just part of the deal, So it took me a lot of years to unwind from that piece. So, and that's where I have the passion now is to really help people connect with their bodies, connect with who they are, soul level. Yes, and to start that process would just make how we always want to do more and be the best version of ourselves. It's a good start to get in touch with your body.
Yeah. Listen to yourself, listen to your body. Um, Without yourself being in that number one position and being healthy, you can't help anybody else.
It's such the truth.
Annette, again, this has been great.
Oh, great! Thank you so
I've
much.
really I've learned a lot, and I'm ready to do what you said that you're gonna do as well after we get off this, and
Yay!
really pay attention and plant my feet firmly on the ground and be grounded.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chuck. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.